Thank you for tuning in to the SkillsAware podcast. We are a human-centered, AI-powered skills recognition engine transforming how people and organizations understand and grow their capabilities.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. We wanted to have you on because we wanted to talk about how evidence-based skills intelligence helps organizations improve workforce planning, productivity, hiring, and internal opportunity. And before we get to that in detail, why don't you tell us a little bit about SkillsAware?
So thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So SkillsAware is a Australian-based but international organization. We are a startup, and like a lot of people in the AI world, we're learning every day and finding new journeys and new pathways and new information. But essentially, what we do is we've used artificial intelligence in a guardrail sense, like controlled sense, privacy-aware sense, to manage evidence of learning, either self-claimed learning, which is a bit unusual. So we'll allow people to tell us their story about their life experience, plus any learning they've gained through their organization, plus any learning they've gained through certified authorities. And then we pull that all together for whatever the purpose might be. Now, several purposes we're doing with our early clients: credit transfer, recognition of prior learning, or in North America, they often call it plethora. We are working with people to accelerate and make it cheaper and easier to get recognition against formal qualifications, micro-credentials, and so on.
Yep.
And also, we work with organizations to expose skills within the organization where people have got a lot of experience, have learned a lot of things, but the organization's unaware of this. So they've hired them into a specific role based on a very short resume, but really people, have much more experience than what they show on their resume. So they're the two business cases we tend to play into. We have both an agentic and an analytical AI function within SkillsAware.
So can you run through like how each one of those things works? Maybe start with the analytical AI, and then the agentic AI, and how it changes the way organizations approach not just the skill development, but the understanding of which skills actually individual employees have, because that's kind of what you're referencing as well.
That's true. And one of the things we did is we brought in a 70,000 rich skills database, 70,000 skills in our back end, so that whatever experience you've got, we can map against those skills.
Wow.
So you would typically upload some evidence, whatever that might be, textual evidence, a reference, a job description, resume, and our analytical AI will map that against the 70,000 skills. So you can use your evidence over and over to get recognition against the skills. Then the other process is the agentic AI, where what we do is we use an agent, we call it the skills assistant, to have a conversation with the participant, the candidate, the learner, whoever it might be. And through that conversation, it draws out more and more and more and more evidence. And then we can come to the way in which we rate evidence, which is a key part of our intellectual property. We have a rating system to rate evidence.
So I was going to ask you, how does that work? And is it interactive? In other words, would that agent talk to me directly and say, Michael, explain to me how you know this or how you know that? Or like in the US, I passed the Series 7 or Series 30, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So now I can do all these other jobs. But because I've been doing that for a long time, then I know, is it interactive as well? And then how do you score it as well?
It's completely interactive, and it's not an assessor. So we can talk about privacy in a minute, and the important thing about AI as a guardrailed tool rather than an open tool. So a lot of fear about just letting AI go rampant, and is it going to replace all the humans? Well, no. In our model, the humans are really important. So what happens is that you would load your evidence, whatever that is, including your informal experience, right? Just what you might have been volunteering at a music club or doing some other thing. Load all of this in, and the agent will ask you more and more questions to exude more information. And then we have an algorithm that rates the evidence. It doesn't rate you, it rates the evidence.
Okay, that's important. That's an important distinction. Sorry, thank you for doing that.
Yeah. So it doesn't assess you and your capability. It assesses the evidence and whether it's relevant. That's the thing. But there's a bit of gamification in here. So what happens is you get in a gamified loop where people go, oh, I've got more evidence. I'll update my score. I'll get a better score, better score, better score. And then when they're ready and they're happy that they've got all of the evidence in, it can go off to a human assessor to evaluate their evidence. Now, that might be in a university or a community college or in a vocational college of some kind, or it might just be within the context of their employment, or it might just be for them, for their own portfolio, you know.
Yeah, so this is the other thing I was going to ask. So let's say I go through this whole process, whether I'm a new employee or a long-tenured employee at a specific company, I use the SkillsAware platform, I go out and I say that I have all these skills, I have evidence for it. Who's using it? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the point? Who's using that? Do I get a raise?
Primary in our early pilots. Now, I've got to say we're early, right? So this stuff's all new, right? But in our early pilots, what we're discovering is recognition of prior learning against formal qualifications is the highest payoff. Because if you go and try and get credit or RPL or anything like that at an institution, there's a whole lot of paperwork involved. Like, it drives everyone insane. In fact, most people say it costs more to get recognition for your prior learning than it does to just do the course, right? Yeah. So our primary business case is about reducing that cost by something like 70%. 70% reduction in the cost of recognition of learning against a formal qualification. So that's the primary business case, what we do. However, in the process, we reveal a whole lot of stuff because suddenly you've got a portfolio of all the things you've ever learned. And, you know, in a resume, you might have 20 things, right? And everyone says, oh, keep your resume short, you know, relevant, recent. Tight. Actually, you're a whole human. Let's recognize the whole human. What research tells us is that that everybody has about 800 to 1,000 skills or capabilities. 800 to 1,000. You just cannot represent those in a resume, but you can represent those in SkillsAware, and you can represent them with evidence backing.
So are we suggesting then, and again, it's early days, right? So I'm just trying to surmise like what's going to happen here. But are we suggesting then that like this idea of, you know, Bob has these 775 skills that no one's ever discussed before because only 21 of them that he put on his resume he thought were important. But is that now going to be more important than like your job title and your kind of the credentials that people know?
I think so. So we live in a project-driven world, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Most people are hiring for skills and moving people from project assignment to project assignment.
Right.
The organizations these days do not hire someone into a 40-year role, right? Just doesn't happen. Right? It's just crazy. So what happens is we want people who can be with us for a while, loyal and be properly rewarded for their effort, but we want to move them from project to project, fast-moving project, fast-moving project, fast-moving project. Just imagine in construction or engineering or defense or anywhere, we're moving people around. They might be on more than one project at once. We need visibility and we need it fast.
Do you think we'll be in a situation where if an organization is using a platform like SkillsAware, they'll think, oh, we need to find a guy who does this thing, so we need to go out and hire him, and then someone will go like, wait a second, we already have Lisa over here who already has that skill and did that for 4 years somewhere else, even though it's not, do you know what I mean? Like it has no license associated with it or any kind of that kind of thing.
And there's one more point, right?
Go ahead.
There might be a regulatory requirement for Lisa, or there might be a compliance requirement for Lisa. So where's the evidence, right? So what we're making sure is that not only is the skill identified, and there's a lot of systems, you know, all the big systems, you know, Workday and all that, they have skill identification systems. But this is evidence system. This is where's the evidence, right? And we're still struggling with can you trust the evidence, right? And I've got to say that's a problem for everybody with AI and with human nature. Can you stop people from loading fraudulent evidence? Well, that's tough. You got to have good policies and procedures. But what we can do is we can say, here is the evidence, and the human in the loop, you work it out for yourself. You go and check out this evidence, make sure it's fit for purpose. And in the end, you know, I do believe you can trust people. So once people work out that they're only going to be hired and only going to be recognized for trusted evidence, then people will just put up the truth. They will in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine the number of people that I worked with at Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs that didn't lie about their resume. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's an edge condition. The people that do it spectacularly, and at the end of the day, I think they generally get caught. Yeah. But most people don't because, again, they don't want to have the downside ramifications of, I never should have said I graduated with an MBA from Harvard because I've never even been there kind of thing. Like, that's just stupid, right?
So one of the things we've built into the SkillsAware platform is an endorsement capability. So we've worked with the United States Chamber of Commerce Foundation, who built a tool called linked credentials. And we've taken that intellectual property, which is open, and we've incorporated into SkillsAware. And so what we do there is you can get an endorsement that's encrypted from a previous supervisor or peer or someone, and that adds a degree of validity and veracity to the evidence you're uploading. So, we're taking this stuff seriously, but it's not a perfect world. The AI still hallucinates. Anyone who says that they've got a perfect AI solution, they're not telling the truth. The truth is, we want to use AI for productivity gains and keep the humans in the loop. We don't want to use it to replace people or replace, human decency and human honesty. What we want to do is just stop us having to shuffle bits of paper and around,
Well, but again, it allows scale. This is the thing that I keep talking about to people, and I'm on record as saying, like, I don't think they're going to be we don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm on record as saying I don't think they're going to be massive only job losses associated with artificial intelligence, agentic AI, whatever it is. Because I think it's going to create whole new categories, just like every other piece of technology has over the past 50 years of roles that need to get done that weren't getting done before because the AI is there now and things. It's just a different thing.
Yeah, well, what's happened, I view AI as just another one of the big, transfers that's gone on in the last 30, 40 years, right? And I'm sad to say I'm old enough to have been around when I got my first personal computer, right? We had a floppy disk and no hard drive, right?
5.25-inch discs. Only you and I would know that, but go ahead.
So, we've seen a lot of change. This is just another big change. That's all it is.
I was thinking about this morning, and tell me if you think this is insane, but I don't think you get an opinion if you're of a certain age unless you've seen like 2 or 3 of these big tech cycles. I don't want to pick an age because I don't think it's fair. But I think it was Mark Rudd who said, don't trust anybody over 30. But I would say maybe the same thing is true about your opinions on technology cycles in reverse. But the point is that, like, if you've not seen multiple tech cycles, all you can do is make exaggerated claims about what this tech cycle is going to mean in the context of nothing, if that's fair.
They become frightening. Like,
yeah, for sure.
If we could imagine, just put it like this, right? In 2006, if we could have imagined what the iPhone would have looked like in 2026, we'd have been really frightened about its power, right? We'd have been telling all sorts of conspiracy theories and telling all sorts of frightening things. My view of AI is sure, it takes humans more out of the loop, but we've been through these cycles before. And if humans are taken completely out of the loop, then we'll evolve away, right? Like, it's crazy. The notion that... Can
I make the reverse argument, if you don't mind, Mark?
Yeah.
I don't remember the year because I wasn't alive, but like when the printing press came out, this was supposed to be an existential threat to humanity because people were going to have way too much information. They're going to know things that they shouldn't know. And now we're worried about people not having enough information, not reading enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just the same cyclical.
So I remember this year, I think it was 1812, and the Marquis in charge in Britain of the British Post Office, said with the invention of the telegram, it will never take off because people want to see the handwriting in paper, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Look what happened to the telegram. All of a sudden, you could send a message across the world. So, yeah, I don't need to dismiss the risks. Well, let's not dismiss the risks, but we are in charge of the risks. And while we remain in charge of the risks, let's use them for productivity purposes. And hence, here we are. We're saying, gee, if you could recognize what people really know, well, isn't that much better than the current, shuffling of papers and sending of resumes and, I started this work. I had a global job once at monster.com. You probably know monster.com.
Very well.
My job, and it's about 25 years ago, my job was to match skills and jobs.
Right.
And what we discovered was that the education world and the job world were like oil and water. So what my lifelong ambition is to emulsify the two. And that's what SkillsAware does. We match the education and the experience that people have with the jobs. And, people have struggled with that for years. We feel like we've found a solution.
Let's talk about this at scale, right? What does a SkillsAware organization understand about its workforce overall that a non-SkillsAware organization doesn't know?
What we know is that so there's a traditional problem in most economies where some employers think, if I train my staff, if I make them aware of how good they are, they'll leave. Well, that's crazy. that's not the modern world. The modern world is people are highly mobile. They move around.
Regardless.
They go with it. Yeah. And you can work, many people are working for more than one organization at once.
Yeah.
This is about making sure that what's known about them is clear and mobility is rapid and scalable. So if you need to put a large workforce together, I was thinking one of the opportunities we've got is in emergency services with I won't name them, but let's just say a high volunteer-oriented organization in emergency services and emergency care.
Yep.
And the problem they've got is they get their volunteers, but they don't know what they know.
Yeah.
They get them for one role, but they don't know what they know. Now, in an emergency, there's a cyclone or a tornado or whatever there is. In an emergency, you want to have the right people at the right spot as fast as possible. So that's the scalable thing that we're seeing. Now, we're not at that scale yet. I don't want to give the wrong impression. We're a startup and we're doing pilot projects. But that's the scalable opportunity. And we're finding, the investment community very interested in how this might work, for us.
So how long has SkillsAware been around, just for me?
We've been about 18 months developing the software. And we've had startup investment. And now we're at the point of multiple pilot projects, Europe, North America, Australia, hoping to get some in Asia. And they're going well. They're all initial because, like anything, you've got to educate the market a little bit. You've got to bring your investors along with you. You've got to adjust the software to suit the real requirements. It's the classic startup scenario. But we're open, patently clear about what we're up to, and we're looking forward to scaling and scaling and scaling. That's the plan.
Awesome. Good luck on that. And Mark, look, it can't hurt to know exactly what skills are sitting inside of your organization, nor can it hurt to know the skills of the people that are trying to join your organization. It sounds like an interesting thing. Okay. Thank you so much.
People can find me on LinkedIn, and it's simply www.skillsaware.com.
Perfect.
And love to hear from anybody who's interested in what we're talking about.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this today, Mark. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well.
Thanks for tuning into this SkillsAware podcast episode. Don't forget to follow us on your podcast app so you don't miss a thing, and be sure to visit our website at skillsaware.com to learn more.